Did you know that there is a truth that women feel, but will never tell you? A silent truth, which lives behind the compliments, the smiles, and even the affection, but which deep down makes them lose respect for you without you even realizing it. And the most shocking thing? This happens just when you think you are doing everything right. When you are the attentive guy, always available, very understanding. But behind it all, there is a hidden emotional rejection, a kind of silent repulsion that arises when you put yourself in an inferior position, even without meaning to. And that's where what almost no one talks about comes in. A man's true value begins the moment he stops asking for permission to exist, to act, to lead. Right now, thousands of men are being emotionally discarded without understanding why. And the explanation isn't in the words they say, it's in the invisible language of female attraction. It's in what they observe, feel, test, and most importantly, in what they hope you never discover. This is female psychology at its purest and most brutal. Not the one in theoretical books, but the one that operates in practice, in the look, in the absence of messages, in comparisons, in tests. And that is exactly what we are going to expose here. If you are a man who has ever felt like something was wrong even when everything seemed right, this video is for you. If you've ever found yourself trying to be more understanding, more romantic, more accessible, and yet you were exchanged, ignored, or simply left aside, then what you hear now could become the key to your love life forever. Because what she never told you, what no woman wants you to discover, is that true attraction doesn't come from passive kindness, but from emotional presence, self-confidence, clarity of purpose. And before you think this is about being rude or insensitive, understand, it's exactly the opposite. It's about knowing who you are. It's about taking control of your energy, your value, and most importantly, your choices regarding them. Because when you take this stance, something changes in the air, and they feel it. They realize that you are no longer there to beg for emotional crumbs, but to choose wisely who deserves access to your world. And it is at this moment that the dynamic reverses. The man who was once disposable becomes unforgettable. The guy who was previously ignored is now the one who dominates the space without saying a word. And that's not luck. It's applied psychology. It's a conscious emotional strategy. And if you've made it this far, it's because you feel like you're part of something bigger. Of a generation of men who refuse to continue being manipulated by silent games. Men who study, observe, become stronger from within, and take control of their own narrative. So if you are on this journey with us, write in the comments, "I lead the game," or "I am the man she cannot control." Choose one of these phrases and say it with conviction. It's not just a phrase, it's a commitment to your new identity. Here, we are not playing seduction. We are building real emotional power. And if this made sense to you, leave your like now, because this way you show that you are part of this brotherhood of awakened men. And subscribe to the channel to continue receiving each insight that transforms your vision of attraction and prepares you to conquer with intelligence. Because here, you don't learn tricks, you transform. There he was on the third date. He had done everything according to the nice guy manuals. He chose a good restaurant, opened the car door, complimented her dress as if he were presenting a prize. He paid for everything, smiled the whole time, made a point of showing that he was different from the others. And still, the next day, silence. No messages, no response. She just disappeared as if that night had never happened. And he, confused, asked himself, "What did I do wrong? I was just being kind." But therein lies the trap. Men are taught from an early age to please to conquer, hiding his own desires, suffocating his masculine energy, believing that the nicer he is, the more likely he is to be chosen. But female emotional reality works differently. True attraction is not activated by empty kindness, but by presence, for silent firmness, for the clarity of someone who knows what they want and doesn't need to be accepted to feel valuable. When a man tries to please too much, he sends a subtle but devastating message, "I am not enough." And this, even if unconsciously, generates emotional repulsion, not because he is polite, but because he disconnects from the essence of masculine energy, which is direction, posture, decision. She doesn't reject your kindness, she rejects the absence of presence, the lack of magnetism, leadershipless delivery. And this is why many men are being discarded after acting with good intentions, because it's not about doing more for her. It's about being more for you. If you have already experienced something similar, comment below, "I lead the connection," or "I don't ask for approval." These words are a turning point, a declaration that you are part of this community of men who understand female psychology not to manipulate, but to lead consciously and strategically. Write now in the comments and show that you are ready to awaken this new version of yourself. Male presence is not about appearance, muscles, or rehearsed phrases. It's about the way you walk into a room and change the energy without saying a word. It's the look that doesn't run away, the voice that doesn't tremble, the silence that commands respect. It's knowing what you want without needing to justify each decision. This type of man is uncomfortable because he doesn't depend on anyone's acceptance to affirm who he is. And the most interesting thing? This has nothing to do with being aggressive or arrogant. It has to do with the security that comes from within, with the clarity of someone who knows their own values and does not negotiate them out of need or the desire to please. Many men today believe that they need to convince women all the time that they are good partners, good listeners, good candidates. They keep explaining themselves, apologizing for being who they are, trying to fill the space with words that have no weight. But the truth is that the desirable man is the one who understands the power of his silence, the value of his presence. He doesn't beg for attention, he attracts it. He doesn't compete for her validation. He becomes impossible to ignore. And it is precisely this masculine emotional presence, firm, centered, and stable, that activates the deepest triggers of female attraction. You don't have to be perfect. It needs to be present. And that, today, is a rarity. In a world where many men are lost in doubts, needs, and insecurities, he who remains firm in himself stands out effortlessly. It's as if the field around him changes. It becomes a reference, a rock in the midst of emotional chaos. And when a woman feels this, she reacts, even without understanding exactly why. Because feminine nature immediately recognizes authentic masculine energy. She doesn't need explanations, she feels it. If you understand the power of emotional presence, write in the comments, "I am firm as stone," or "My presence speaks for me." These phrases represent more than words. They are internal declarations of transformation. Participate with us. Show that you are part of this community of conscious and strategic men. The change in men's lives doesn't happen in an explosive moment, full of shouting or grandiose declarations. It happens in silence. It's the moment when a man stops seeking approval and starts to position himself firmly. When he stops trying to please in order to be accepted and simply begins to exist with authority. This change is internal, almost imperceptible to the eye, but felt intensely by any woman around. And the most powerful thing about all of this is that this transformation doesn't depend on anyone, only on you. When you realize that you don't need to prove anything or compete for attention, you leave the emotional game that weakened you and enter a field where your simple presence already sets the mood. There is a simple but extremely effective technique that can show you how real this turnaround is. The next time she provokes you, questions you, tries to destabilize you with words or actions, remain silent for 10 seconds. Don't rebut, don't justify yourself, don't react. Just look, breathe, and keep your energy steady. You will notice that something changes in her mind. Provocation loses its power. The game breaks. And in the place of tension, respect appears. Because the man who remains silent controls. And it is not control in the sense of dominating, but of commanding one's own energy, of maintaining emotional direction without getting lost in the test. This posture is magnetic because it reveals something rare, emotional dominance. It shows that you are not a reactive doll that responds to the stimulus of any word. It shows that you think, observe, choose how to act. And this type of man becomes impossible to manipulate. He doesn't enter the field of emotional dispute because he already understands that true power lies in not bowing down to the game. And that's when she starts to see you with different eyes. Not as just one more, but as one who is different from all the others. The man who has a voice even in silence. If you felt this, if this key turned inside you right now, write it in the comments. I don't react, I decide, or my steadfastness is my answer. These phrases are statements of strength, and each comment shows that you are becoming part of a community of conscious, strategic, and emotionally strong men. The process of stopping being the good guy is not about becoming rude or distant. It's about reclaiming the center of your energy. The man who is always available, who responds immediately to every message, who never says no, is constantly showing that his time and attention are worthless. And when something is too easy, too predictable, it loses its mystery, challenge, and above all, respect. The woman by instinct tests this. She observes how you deal with your own life. If you drop everything to adjust to her, if you are always accessible, if you adapt to her wishes just to keep the connection alive. But this posture, instead of bringing you closer, pushes you away. That's exactly what happened to him. For weeks, he answered everything right away, showed constant interest, was always kind, present, insistent. But nothing changed. Until one day, he decided something simple. Stop responding immediately. Not by game, but by decision. Because he understood that his time was also valuable. He stopped living for her validation and refocused on what built his masculine presence. And that's when everything turned around. After a time of silence, of strategic absence, she was the one who sent the message. Where are you? Because the absence that comes from a man who has purpose, who values himself, is not rejection. It's magnetism. Learning to say no is a milestone in the construction of male identity. And this no needs to be ready, sharp, natural. Because every man who positions himself with limits earns respect. Say no to invitations that break your discipline. Say no to messages that require your immediate response. Say no to attitudes that violate your principles. All of this communicates that you have a life of your own, that your time is not for sale, that you choose yourself before trying to please anyone else. When you slow down the response, you don't lose it. You gain power. If you understand the value of leaving the good guy role and taking charge of your own energy, comment now. My time has value, or I don't chase, I attract. Your every word here strengthens this movement of awakened men who live feminine psychology with strategy, truth, and firmness. Rejection, no matter how painful it may seem at first, is a camouflaged opportunity. It's there, in that moment when you feel like you've been left out, that the true test of inner power happens. Because the man who has no structure breaks down, runs after, begs for answers, tries to explain himself, seeks crumbs of validation. The man who understands feminine psychology applied to attraction and relationships does exactly the opposite. He collects himself, reorganizes himself, and emerges stronger, more aligned and more magnetic than ever. And no, this isn't about ignoring or feigning indifference. It's about repositioning your value, rebuilding your presence, and letting silence speak what words cannot express. Social repositioning begins when you change your focus. Instead of channeling all your energy into her absence, you start directing it towards your connections, your projects, your image. Social media, for example, is no longer a showcase of neediness, but a reflection of evolution. She begins to see that your absence is not desperation, but a decision. The strategic cold technique comes soon after. You don't react, you don't respond quickly, you don't show unnecessary emotion. Your emotional distance makes it clear that something has changed. And it is in this space that the mystery grows. You don't explain yourself. You don't justify the silence. You don't try to fix what was broken. You simply disappear from her comfort zone. And then comes the most powerful trigger. She feels your absence as if it were a real emotional loss. The man who knows how to disappear at the right moment appears later as someone who no longer depends. And that completely changes the way she sees you. By no longer being too predictable and accessible, you activate something that has rarely been awakened, the desire for your presence. Because now, she feels like she might lose something valuable. And this feeling, when well constructed, is the greatest trigger of emotional reconnection that exists. If this has already happened to you, or if you want to experience this repositioning consciously, write now in the comments, I am the loss she will feel, or my absence teaches more than my words. Leave your mark and strengthen this movement of men who understand how to rebuild value strategically. Today, you understand that it's not about how much you try to please, nor how much you give yourself waiting for recognition. It's not about flowers, gifts, or loving messages sent without response. It's about presence, about what you represent when you enter a room, about the silent impact you generate just by being there with emotional firmness, with a defined identity, with consolidated masculine energy. The respect she feels for you is not born from your actions, but from your posture. Desire does not come from what you deliver, but from what you transmit. And the value she attributes to your presence is a direct reflection of the value you recognize in yourself. It is this power that changes everything. The man who understands female psychology does not become manipulative, but rather stops being manipulated. He does not enter the emotional game to compete with other men. He simply occupies the place that rightfully belongs to him, that of a man who inspires security, direction, and magnetism. And if until now you have lived trying to prove that you were enough, now is the time to turn that game around. Because in the end, it is not about winning her over at any cost. It is about becoming the kind of man she fears losing. And if this awakens something in you, if you felt you were ready for this new position, comment now, I am the man she respects, or my presence transforms everything. These phrases aren't just words, they're statements that cement your new path. Right. Show that you are part of this community of men who are conscious, strategic, and emotionally aligned with their purpose. And if you want to understand why she left you even after saying she loved you, the next video will show you the truth that no one had the courage to tell you. So subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications, because this movement is just beginning, and you are at the center of this transformation. Like this video, share it with whoever needs to hear this, and remember, everything changes when you decide to become the man she will never forget.